Welcome to another Sunday night, and welcome to another episode of Super Duper Basketbros. I am your moderator, Denzel Snipes, and we got a pretty loaded show for you all. I know it's going to be quite a bit of a quarterback shootout here coming up here in about an hour. But all I ask is that you take, just an hour and we'll have you right to your game. Okay, we're going to talk about a little throwback basketball. One of our topics, we're going to cheat a little bit and talk about today's, but the rest of it is going to be throwback. We generate these conversations to bring back some good memories and some interesting debates and topics. You'll see for yourself or anybody watching for the first time. But let's go ahead and get the crew in here. So he's actually opposite of my name, or kind of the same, but he's operating out of Charlotte, North Carolina by way of Connecticut. And that is DJ Willie V. What's up, man?
Yes. DJ Willie V, a.k.a. Just Tonight, Wesley, Washington. Opposite again. Doing good. Enjoying the NBA season so far. My Hornets beat the Warriors last night, which was shocking. And yeah, just excited for another awesome show tonight.
Sweet, absolutely. I know the Panthers had a near miss. Like, I really thought like that was it. Like, wow, these dudes just upset Atlanta and they're about to be in first place, and then the future happened.
Yep, exactly. And it's gone. Yep.
They had the victory and it's gone. And well, let's bring in our other member. You can catch him on Wednesday nights at the South Florida Tribune for the Sports Exchange. He's the captain, the co-pilot, the crew, the president, and the cabinet. Give it up for Scott, the Motor City Madmouth, Morgonroth.
Hey, good to see you, Denzel. Last week I was tied up in Homestead, but I always miss my Sunday night crew. Glad to be back on Basketbros and everything that we get involved with. So I'm looking forward to having you in a future episode of the Sports Exchange so you can see how the old conversion goes from our broadcast pundit all the way to the SC. Yes, king of the road, folks. If you only knew what I've been through the last 72 hours. In fact, last week in Homestead, you can only imagine. I actually took a trip up to Michigan. I had to deliver a company truck from a family member and bring it down to South Florida. I pulled the trick off in 48 hours, believe it or not. And here I am, friendly confine, doing this show. If it weren't for this show, I would have gone back to bed. But I enjoy being around with you guys. And you know what? If I can be here, God willing, I will be here because you are the best teammates on the planet.
Absolutely. And you really are king of the road because it's been more than the last 72 hours. Like, you've been like pretty much all over South Florida this last, 2, 3, 4 weeks?
Well, when you think about it, yeah. I mean, listen, I was in Homestead 2 of the 3 days last week, and then I ended up taking a flight from Fort Lauderdale up to Detroit and then back. And I got back yesterday, and I covered Florida Atlantic against UAB. And, of course, they had the Miami Hurricanes last week against Duke, let alone the NASCAR stuff in between. So, I was telling my wife how much I really enjoyed staying home today and not going anywhere. There was no crime in not putting any miles on my vehicles at all for a day. Yeah. I didn't mind. It's okay. Once in a while, you can stay home. But, no, I felt like we've accomplished a lot. The best part about driving on the road, though, Denzel and Wesley, is I have a chance to meditate and think about things I want to do for our network to make it better. And, meditation to me is like medicine, and for me to be able to do that, I love driving. A lot of people may not like driving distances, but not this guy. That's why I probably wear this King of the Road hat, because it definitely makes me feel it's appropriate. So
he wears it and wears it proudly. And also joining us right now from his car, he's on his way home, but he is the architect of the Pundit's Pundit, Mr. Jacob Christner. Come on in here.
What is going on? Had to deal with a bad signal, but we got it all set now.
Okay, all right. Well, looks like we're ready to rock and roll. And just want to remind everyone that we are to tune in. If you're a first-time watcher, you can catch us on Sideline Sports on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Just go in there and type in Sideline Sports. We'll pop up. It is more than just our show. We've got Pundit Sports Arena, Gauntlet, Three Chicks in the Pod, NBA Carousel, NFL Carousel, you name it. We got an entire lineup all day long. So, we got great material, and, just check us out. But let's get into our first topic, and that is our Basketbros legend, and that is point guard Steve and current Brooklyn Nets head coach Steve Nash. Now, who is Steve Nash? Well, he was picked 15th overall in the 96 draft, the vaunted 96 draft that also produced Kobe Bryant, Antoine Walker, amongst others. He's selected by the Phoenix Suns. He actually he played for 3 years with the Phoenix Suns, then went and spent a significant amount of time with the Dallas Mavericks. Then also he went back to the Suns where he spent another 8 or 9 years, and then he finally ended his career with the Lakers. Now he is a 2-time NBA Most Valuable Player, 8-time NBA All-Star, 3-time All-NBA First Team, 2-time All-NBA Second Team, 2-time All-NBA Third Team, 5-time NBA Assist Leader. You can always depend on him for dimes. He's 4 times he's made the 50-40-90 club, 06, 08, 09, and 10. He's in the Phoenix Suns Ring of Honor. He's a NBA 75th anniversary team member. Some work he did overseas. He's a 2-time FIBA AmeriCup MVP. He won a Lou Marsh Trophy. He's also a 3-time Lionel Conatra Award winner. He's in college. He was a 2-time WCC Player of the Year, and Santa Clara Broncos number 11 retired as a consultant. He's also a 2-time NBA champion. He is in the Basketball Hall of Fame as a player. He's in the FIBA Hall of Fame as a player. So Steve Nash, a part of me still wishes that he would have remained and ended his career in Dallas, just so he would get that. That he could get. He's one of the greatest players never to win a ring as a player. I always felt like he should have stayed and gotten one with Nowitzki, because they those two were the tag team. I mean, at that time period, as far as early 2000s, I mean, you'd be hard pressed to find. I mean, there's some out there, you'd be hard pressed to find a duo that was better than them two right there. But of course, he went to Phoenix. While he was there, they came back from down. I think it was in 07. Came back from down 3-1 and knocked out the Lakers in the playoffs. When he was there, that Suns Lakers rivalry really was it, But you take Steve Nash as a player, unselfish. I don't know where he ranks on everyone's Mount Rushmore or list of point guards all time. He's definitely in the top 10, maybe in a lot of people's top 5. I mean, he's got 5 assist titles. I mean, wouldn't be mad at the pick. But most definitely, here's the Steve Nash. It's Passion on the Will. Your thoughts on Steve Nash?
Man, I was born in 94, so he was picked 2 years after I was drafted. But man, love Steve Nash. Love Steve Nash. Grew up loving watching those Phoenix Suns teams because I didn't really get to catch the young Nash when he was with Dallas. But I watched him when he was with the Suns, where he was with Amari Stoudemire, Grant Hill, a young Goran Dragic, a bunch of young Joe Johnson, a bunch of role players. And the guy was super unselfish. Like, I remember seeing him run down the court, and we all remember the long hair he had, the really long hair he had. Like,
Yeah.
the as I call it, beach hair, the surfer hair.
Mm-hmm.
And he would just go everywhere when he's running. But that guy would just throw assists from every angle possible. And he grew up playing soccer and hockey in his youth. And before he went to Santa Clara actually had a 5-year absence from the NCAA tournament. So during his first year, he led them to a WCC tournament title, and the NCAA tournament where they actually beat number 2 Arizona in the first round. He upset Arizona. Nash was definitely one of my idols growing up. When I played basketball, I played a little bit of basketball and wasn't a really good shooter, but when I played those video games, it was like whenever it was like pick a player for your team, it was either like Steve Nash, Chris Paul, Allen Iverson, whatever. But yeah, he is definitely one of the greatest point guards of all time, along with Magic Johnson, John Stockton, so many others to name. But yeah, I'm just happy I got to see all of Steve Nash's career, and it does hurt me that he didn't win a title because his Phoenix Suns teams always went to the Western Conference Finals year after year after year after year. And guess who they ran into? The Los Angeles Lakers and Kobe Bryant. And Kobe would just go off and
Dog
say,
them.
hey,
Yeah.
you're not getting a ring ever. And that's what hurts me. But still, one of the best point guards to ever play on the basketball court.
Yeah, of course. And this has to hit you because he's from your area. You said you were born in '94, so he's most definitely one from like your era and such. And yeah, he not winning a ring ever, and Kobe made sure of that. But no, most definitely. Like, and see, this is the reason why
I just thought it was weird he retired with LA.
Yeah, I mean, there was that. I would think that he would have returned to Dallas. I really would have liked it. Cause see, the thing is, you remember when Kidd returned to Dallas and then he won a ring. Like I wish he would have never left Dallas. No offense to Suns and Suns fans or anything like that, but I really felt like him and Dirk. Like Dirk won one ring, right? If he was there with Nash, they would have won.
Oh my gosh! Imagine Dirk, Jason Terry, Juwan Howard.
Michael Finley, yeah, they would have won too. That's just me though. But let's swing it on to Scott. Your thoughts on point guard Steve Nash, sir?
Number one, I believe Nash is from Canada originally, isn't he?
He is.
So you're talking about one of the greatest players to ever come out of Canada. Yes, he's one of them. And why do I go out there? Yeah, I know the A very well because I talk about it a lot, because being from Detroit, Windsor's on the other side of the border.
Yeah.
And if y'all want a little trivia question of what I really think of Canada, when Pop Rocks were illegal in Michigan, I used to get one of my friends over there. We used to go across the bridge and the tunnel and pick them up. Anything we wanted from Canada, all I had a friend just take us across the border. We'll bring them back to Motown.
Yeah.
But there's always a player or two that ends up not winning a ring because he ran into, like Denzel, that's what you're saying. He ran into, okay. Charles Barkley ran into, okay. On the East and the West. So, but I don't know if I'd put him in my top 4, but easily my top 10. I mean, a Mount Rushmore to me, you're only talking about 1, 2, 3, 4. That's it. Okay. And now other people want to stretch it and think it's 5, then they better go to South Dakota and start and add another head to that list. Then we have a handful of engraved people instead of 4. But no, I think he's great. I mean, to me, why would he end up with the Lakers? Well, he was trying to get a ring there, just like Karl Malone ended up with the Lakers. Who would have thought that Karl Malone would ever land up with the Lakers? What about John Stockton? Didn't get a ring with Utah, but had a heck of a time attempting to beat the Bulls. So that happens. But I like Steve Nash. He's coaching a Brooklyn team, which is dysfunctional. And it's a shame that he got that opportunity instead of somewhere else with a bunch of underachieving superstars that have more drama than you can see on any soap opera on daytime television, because that's what you got with a net. So
yeah,
I have the utmost respect for him. I do agree with you. I think he should have stayed in Dallas to get that ring. I really, really do. Yeah. Unfortunately, that situation never came to fruition, but I love the way he plays. I love his point guards. I love the assists. And to me, being in the Hall of Fame speaks volumes. But Canadians can be very proud of Steve Nash, that's for sure, because he represents the country real well. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And well, swinging on to our Uber driver, Jacob, your thoughts on Steve Nash?
Well, you remember when I had said about Matt Stafford that he was the last of our Warriors that we ever see in football?
Uh-huh.
I said that on one of our other shows. Steve.
Right.
We see that. Steve Nash is the last of our Warriors we see. We always see that picture of him with that cotton up his nose and the broken nose and the blood coming out. The true last of the Warriors in the NBA, because they don't allow you to be a Warrior anymore.
That's true.
They don't let you be, because it's like, if you see even a drop on the leg, I mean, they take you to the back, they get you all that stuff. He literally used to play with that cotton up the nose and tried to hold it together. He did all that kind of stuff, and those are the big things. But most of all, he is the true last. He and Jason Kidd, and now Chris Paul, because he'll be retiring. Yeah. Chris Paul will be retiring. They're the last of the true dimes. To me now, I believe that we should be just called guards, 2 guards. Right. Because there are 2 guards now. There isn't everybody keeps saying greatest point guard of all time, Steph Curry. Since when is he a point guard. A point guard runs the floor. He's a shooter and one of the greatest of all time. But those are the point about it. This is a guy that gave dime. This is a guy who ran the floor. I wish
he was a real point guard. Yeah.
Yeah. I wish he would have gotten that ring. I wish he would have had a chance with it at Dallas. I wish he would have gotten it with the Lakers. That guy was an absolute warrior. He did not quit at all. He played in every kind of pain whatsoever. And again, he wouldn't be allowed to now. It's like the same as our heroes. I'm talking about Scott. Our heroes now, because everybody, the lawyers and the agents run everything now.
Oh, yeah.
So you couldn't because those pictures, the picture of Nolan Ryan with the blood coming down his face, we got hit by the ball by Bo Jackson. We're not going to see this in this era. We're not going to see these NFTs in this era anymore because no one allows them to really be hurt. We got the images. We grew up with the images that mean everything.
Yeah, that's an interesting point with Steph Curry because guys like Steph Curry and Kyrie Irving. Look, we all know that they are two guards masquerading as a one. Point guards. They're essentially quarterbacks in basketball. They run the floor. They run the offense. When you look at the Golden State Warriors, who runs the offense? Draymond Green. When you look at the Nets, who runs the offense? KD. Can you really call them? They're point guards in name only, really.
Well, you know what, Denzel, you bring up an interesting point. I'm sure we'll segue to a little bit later. But I love watching Isaiah Thomas run the floor. I mean, come on, really, this guy ran the floor literally and figuratively. I worked with him during the Bad Boys there, and Isaiah Thomas to me, we had a good working relationship too when I was in the locker room, and I used to pick his brain about some things. And then he ended up taking a coaching job at Florida International University. We talked a little bit in Miami. That's probably a time he'd prefer to forget trying to turn FIU into something.
These are just the points I make, though. I mean, thank you on that. It's like these are the points I make. When I'm doing we'll have our little debates with our sideline guys sometimes. You know what I'm talking about. But I'll say that he's not because it drives me nuts when they'll say that Stephen Curry's become next one up is Magic Johnson. It's like, since when does he run the floor the same way as Magic?
Right.
It's like, shooter. If you want to say that he's a better shooter than Bird, good, because he is. I mean, I love the guy, but he is. He is, but it's like, but he does not control the offense.
Right.
That's what a point guard is.
Well, the key word there, though, I want to make sure I emphasize this, Jacob, Will and Denzel, it's interpretation of what you consider a guard, point guard, and someone that, likes to go out there and is unselfish, that likes to pass. And I think interpretation is really what it comes down to. I mean, I can tell you my thoughts about Magic Johnson all day long. I mean, number one, he certainly recreated the position being a tall guy that can distribute the basketball and prove that he can fit in center if he needed to. You talk about a hybrid guy that could go front and back. That's another story, Isaiah. It all depends on how you really run the floor. And the fact that I do agree with you guys, guards are what they are. And I know Jacob and I addressed this on last week's edition of the Sports Exchange when I listed off a few players that had a lot of assists. I want to recap that because I know y'all have other topics. But it's all about interpretation of what you expect a floor general to do. That's the only thing I'm saying here. And let's face it, okay, Steve Nash is one of those. Now, Ben Simmons, if he can get himself right with the Nets, and I say if he can get himself right, he's got the best mentor on the planet. He really does in Steve Nash. It's just a matter of him getting in sync is really what it comes down to.
Bring up Ben Simmons real quickly. This is the thing I have to say.
Sure.
Everybody's expecting. You remember when Dennis Rodman? Do you remember when Dennis Rodman, there was 3 straight games when he had 0 points, 28 rebounds, 0 points, 24 rebounds, 0 points, 25 rebounds. We see that meme all the time. You remember those times? Why don't we just give that to Ben? Give that role to Ben. 0 points, 14 assists, 0 points, 16 assists. He's more than happy to pass it off.
Well, Jacob, you know what's going to end up happening when they do figure it out? What you just said is going to come to fruition. Listen, you're early in the season for picking sakes. That will eventually be what happens. And Steve Nash is trying to deflect a lot of the Ben Simmons discussion. They know what he can't shoot himself out of a paper bag by now. They know it already. When you know what you have, then it's up to the coach to be a coach.
Okay. A coach.
Right. And we're talking about a point guard that is a coach because they're thinking men, right? To try to get as much out of Ben Simmons as you can. So, Jacob, everything you said over the course of an 82-game season, when you're talking about Ben Simmons, and I'll tell you want to bring up Dennis Rodman, another guy that I covered. I can tell you right now, many times people criticize his offense, and Rodman says, I frankly don't give a damn about my offense. All I want to do is rebound and play defense. And every time he left a team, Dennis Rodman, they were worse without him because he covered up the little problems that most teams would have when you unravel it, two of the most underrated portions. So, Jacob, I'll say this, my friend, you are dead on. You really are.
Well, I appreciate that. And it's like, this is the thing about, this is the thing truly about Ben Simmons. I know we're off the topic, but this is the thing about him. Every time I see his numbers, it's like 6 rebounds, 8 assists, 3-4 steals. Yeah. It's like people are making fun that he airballed a layup. Good for them. All I'm seeing right now is a coach that is not thinking with his head right now. Because I'm somebody who's been a volunteer coach. I've also been a tutor, a mentor. I've been these things. If I'm seeing 3 to 4 steals and 8 assists, I don't give a crap if he ever shoots. We've got shooters on that team. We've got shooters on that team.
The only problem you're having right now with Simmons is he's fouling out too much. That's the only real problem. Yeah. And they need to get that straight. But the other points that we've covered here, because, again, you're not getting that far off topic, Jacob, okay? You're talking about Steve Nash being a supposed mentor for Ben Simmons. So you're not that far off. We've already established the fact that Steve Nash is one of the best point guards easily in my top 10 that ever played again because of his ability to pass the ball and certainly the most unselfish player on the planet. So we're not that far off here. We're just trying to stretch our examples to go just a little bit further. That's all.
I'd kill as a coach. If I could become a coach, I'd kill to have a Ben Simmons. I'd kill because I'm just going to say, okay, shoot when you want. I'm going to say this: if your head's that clogged up, shoot when you want. I know you're going to pass. Right. I guarantee 14 to 16 assists a game, and then it's going to get to a point when you give him that the freedom just to pass everything. He's going to eventually start shooting in practice. He's going to eventually start doing these things and getting an open mind, and he's going to eventually start hitting. But the thing is, just giving him all this pressure from the media, making it listen, then you constantly, and then he's overthinking himself and airballing layups and everything like that. I don't care if he shoots, if he's getting 8 assists. If you just get the foul outs and stuff like that, leave it alone. Leave it alone and just let it come as it be, because the guy gets 3 to 4 steals, 5 steals. He gets 3 blocks. He's 6'10" that could run the point. Come on.
Yeah, but do you know why players struggle with free throw shooting?
Why is that?
Because they don't concentrate. I coach that area. Well, you know it or not, I was actually an assistant coach for Oakland Community College out in Farmington Hills. And I coached, I actually did for a season. And what was so interesting about it, and I really like doing it, I don't talk about it a lot because I didn't coach that long. I took a kid under my wing and took him to the other thing, and he ended up making some free throws. I used to pull guys over all the time. It was all about concentration. I used to scream in there, and then he made a couple of important free throws in a big game, and he looked at me and said, "Thank you very much." So it's all about concentration. And that's what a lot of these sports are all about, concentration. And Jacob, as I said, I'll say it again, you're on target. All you guys are on target with some of the things you're mentioning. We're right there.
Well, we're at the 24-minute mark. Actually, when you brought up the whole Pistons thing and Isaiah Thomas, that we're going to use that to segue into our next topic, and that is our Basketbros moment in time. You're not seeing things, ladies and gentlemen. This did not happen in 2013. This did not happen in 2022. This was December 13th, holiday season, 1983. Pistons 186, Nuggets 184, highest scoring game in NBA history. Isaiah Thomas had 47 points, 17 assists, 5 rebounds, and 4 steals. John Long had 41 points, 6 rebounds, 8 steals. Kiki Vandeweghe for the Nuggets had a game-high 51 points, 9 rebounds, 8 assists. Alex English added another 47 points, 12 rebounds, 7 assists. In total, Detroit finished 74 for 136 and 37 for 60 from the free throw line. Denver shot 68 for 115 and 47 for 57 from the free throw line. Both teams each finished just 1 for 2 from 3-point range. Man, you talk about an exhausting game, but I am sure that the fans got their money's worth that night. But we were in the group chat about it, and Scott, you made mention that you remember this game, and you're the resident Pistons fan alongside Dom. But I'll actually have you lead off on this one. Your thoughts about this historic game?
Well, let me explain to you, my friend. I am not a Pistons fan. I am a Pistons writer. Right. So let's make sure we understand that, okay? Number 2, okay, the attendance for that game was 9,655, and that was Chuck Daly's first year as head coach of the Detroit Pistons. First year. And you know who the head coach for the Denver Nuggets was?
Who was that?
Doug Moe. Never cared about defense. This guy
Doug Moe's forever no defense. Forever.
Exactly. Well, that's exactly. So let me continue. And some of the other players that you had there were Kelly Tripucka. 35 points. Drafted out of Notre Dame. It was subsequently shipped, I believe, to Utah in exchange for Adrian Dantley, who, by the way, was subsequently shipped to Dallas, I believe, from Mike McGuire. So when you look at the particulars here, okay, the 3-point shot wasn't emphasized. These guys played basketball the old-fashioned way, the right way. Go, you commit the foul, we'll go to the line, make it a 3-point play. Yeah, there's a little bit of a play-by-play part of me that does exist internally, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But when you look at the Pistons roster as it stands right now, and I really like looking at the roster. Kelly Tripucka, Cliff Livingston was on that team, Bill Lambier, Isaiah Thomas, John Long, Vinnie Johnson, Terry Tyler, 2 University of Detroit guys on there, Kent Benson, a guy who played for Bobby Knight in 1976 during that undefeated team, and they won it all. I believe it was Ray Toller, Earl Cureton, Russell, and Third Kill. So you have 3 University of Detroit players on the same team. And Chuck Daly being the first-year coach who was brought in for defensive purposes. Now, if you think that Chuck Daly was going to wave his defensive magic wand that game, hold your breath. Defense came later. This is what he inherited. It wasn't the finished product at the time. And Denver never played defense anyway, so what's the difference anyhow? So
the team did, yeah.
In fact, for that matter, the Denver Nuggets have never been to an NBA final in all these years. And I remember going back with the Nuggets that the first time you ever saw 2 brothers coach against each other was Herb Brown for the Detroit Pistons against Larry Brown. There's a topic for a future Basketbros. You have Larry Brown for the Nuggets, and then you had Herb Brown, and then Herb won a championship when he ended up joining the staff of Larry with the Pistons. So what am I trying to tell you? Nobody cared about defense. I wonder if anybody really cares about it now, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I don't even know if they care about it now. Only this time, all you have to do to play today's basketball is, let's use 10 seconds of shot clock and fire it and hope and pray that you get a lot more of those. That 186 to 184 game to me, under today's standards, should have been, you could add another 50 points on each way if you had 3-point shots, and who knows what the score would have been. If we could determine lottery numbers off of these points, we would all be rich, and then we could all go in our own flushing studio wherever we're at and do this thing in person. But no, streaming isn't so bad either. But the reality is, I remember that as I ended up covering the Pistons and know about them a lot of years, you had the beginning of the Bad Boys eras. There were certainly a lot of guys shipped out, and you had a few University of Detroit Titans players on there as well. It was fun. I mean, Kelly Tripucka is the one guy that tends to be forgotten early in Chuck Daly's regime. He's one of the few guys out of Notre Dame that's actually played basketball in the NBA, and he's been really good. Adrian Dantley was another guy that I mentioned. So
nice.
I guess to make a long story short, I'm glad you brought the subject. I am. I think I'm glad you brought it up for two reasons. This is a game that was as high scoring as it was in the
That no
old.
one talks about.
Right. No one
No
talks.
one talks about. You would think, like, even in the era today, the shooting era, that someone would bring up this game. But I guess the reason why they don't is because, well, neither
Players.
team really shot from the 3-point range like that.
Well, no,
It's like-
you're wrong. You know why nobody talks about it? They're
Hmm.
not as smart as we are. That's all.
That
They're
too.
not. It's the
That's
truth.
true.
They're not as smart as we are. Think about this for a second. We talk about if by now today's basketball is any good, which I still think stinks, and I don't watch it much. I only talk about it when I have to, because in our business you have to talk about all subjects if it makes sense. But think about it. By now, under today's basketball, this record should easily be broken. It really should, because it's cheap. All you got to do is just shoot like jump shots.
Yeah.
And it goes back to the old ration when we earn it. But yet you actually had 2 points of the regular conventional three. So no, nobody's smart enough to come up with that subject on their show. They really aren't. In fact, you know what? Gives me an idea. Maybe when you come on here, we'll bring it up there in a couple of weeks as well. That's an idea, because I don't mind taking topics here and there if they make sense, because I get
we get different points of view. We'll have you'll have others on the show and just see what they think about it. I like it.
Yeah, I'm
We're
with you.
fans in topics, of course.
See, Genzo, you and Jacob and Will fall into the old-fashioned thing called GMTA. Great minds think alike, buddy. That's
There we go.
I mean, I'll make for y'all. But no, it's the truth. I'm glad you brought it up. And I talked about Isaiah at FIU and the fact that he was an intricate part of the Toronto Raptors organization in the early stages. But the reality is, when you bring up this game, it gets lost in the record. It should have been broken only because of the fact that the basketball that they're playing doesn't emphasize defenses. And so this record is actually withstanding the test of time in today's era. Which, name a person on this panel that really cares much about today's basketball. I don't know. But nobody's showing it. But this record has stood the test of time, and it may end up going on as one of the most unbreakable records. But like Jacob said, Doug Moe never cared about defense, and Chuck Daly had just gotten his hands on that organization and started to put his footprint on where they subsequently did play defense to win a couple titles.
Absolutely, man. Awesome commentary on that one. This game being brought up because you can only imagine being a fan in attendance, whether you paid $15 for your ticket or $200 for your ticket. You got your money's worth. Bone to swing it over to Will. I know this was way before your time, just like anything else on the show. But now I want to lead off with this question though before you give your thoughts. Do you think that this record will ever be broken? Will there be a higher scoring game outside of the All-Star game? Will there be a higher scoring game than this in 10 years? Within 10 years?
No, because I think within the next 10 years, Stephen Curry is going to retire and we're going to lose one of the best three-point shooters. But actually, you know what? I don't know, because kids these days want to shoot the ball. So I can, not in the next 10 years, but in the next 20 plus years, yes, because the kids these days are not doing the Michael Jordan dunk where you want to be like Mike. I want to be like Mike, the commercial being like Michael Jordan. Now it's like, I want to be like Stephen Curry. I want to shoot from three. I want to shoot from three-quarters court. So in the next 10 years, probably not. In the next 20 plus years, I can see it for sure happening. But yeah, I'm surprised this record hasn't been broken yet. Like, I'm surprised the Warriors haven't even came close. I don't know what their high scoring mark is for a game, because they've got Clay, they got Steph, they got Poole, and
Draymond's good for a 3 or 2.
But yes, it's amazing. This has stood the last of time, and I love when records do that, because I know the saying goes, records were meant to be broken, but some records I feel like shouldn't be broken, and this is one of them that I wouldn't care personally if it is broken or not, because history is history.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Also, and you know what? That's a great point that you made up because it's a different era now. And with that, I'm going to swing it to Jacob. And whenever we talk when we're on Confidential and everything, and you talk about how the game of baseball has changed, and now chicks dig the long ball. That's what you say. They dig the long ball. Well, it's the same for basketball. Chicks dig the long ball. They digging the 3-pointer now. So that being said, I'm going to lead off with this question for you. Also, same question. Do you think that this record will be broken? Will there be another higher scoring game?
Yes, in the All-Star game. Because no one plays defense. Because, but
they almost had 200 in an All-Star game a few years ago.
No, we didn't have the 200, but I'm just saying this part.
I said near.
But here's the thing, though. Just think how hard this has been to beat. Think about this for a second. 186-24. We have these All-Star games 0-0-0-0 and less than 0 defense did not get broken. I mean, just think about this. I mean, people when practically LeBron can hold the ball up for KD and they're on the different team for them to do something and they don't break it.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to think of Bird and MJ. I mean, Bird, MJ, and Magic. They have gotten 150 points a total of 6 times in their life as far as their teams.
Wow.
A total of 6 times. These are offensive juggernauts. Couldn't get past 160 even. And and these are, you got to think, I mean, you talk about offensive juggernauts, and you would think that Magic would have had 10 times 150 points. You would have thought that with the way they went out the court, but no. And it's just to think of how hard that is to do. And here's how hard it is physically. Both teams went on losing streaks after that.
Yeah.
Both teams went on losing streaks after that because they were just completely worn out. Yeah. And then you bring up Kiki Vandeweghe. Kiki Vandeweghe, I bring up about the old school. That this is the thing I like about the new day right now. That these people are going to be able to retire with extra money. Kiki Vandeweghe, a guy who once had 27 points a game in a season, had 51 in that game, ended his career sitting on the bench for 6 minutes for 2 points a game.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's he ended his career doing that. And it's and you, by the way, you brought up let's see, you brought up Kelly Tripucka.
Yeah.
The way I know what Kelly Tripucka is Tommy Heinsohn every single time. Tripuker. He called Tripuker because of that Boston accent.
Well, that's true.
It started out with his Boston accent. It sounds like Tripuker, and then he just went with it.
Yeah, well, let me just say this, okay? I know it's good to get your perspectives, and I want to just double back, Denzel, for just a quick moment, okay? With the exception of All-Star games, this is a record that's not going to get broken in the regular season. No.
I agree.
I mean, I don't care about All-Star games. I don't even bother watching because nobody knows. But, yeah, you're talking about subsequent losing streaks, Jacob. No way they're touching the regular season. I don't care what anybody says.
Well, you're right on that. It's because you're looking at you got to remember both these teams went on losing streaks after, and they went on losing streaks after this. And this was in an era where they played tough. This is an era now where Kawhi Leonard is on can he play watch because he will absolutely protect every injury with bubble wrap and ice. He is the least tough guy you've ever seen in your life.
Yeah, it's called paper mache is what it's called.
Yeah, and these are what they are now. And it's so there's no way anybody's going to want to get to that record because if Kawhi Leonard was part of 184 game, he'd be out 10 games.
Well, first of all, it's not a matter of whether they want to get to the record. They're just not going to do it because that's a lot of points. You're talking about 2 teams that scored 180-plus points. How many teams are built that well to score 180-plus points? Both of them, unless they make a decision, okay, we're not going to play defense and shoot for the record. Well, you know darn well that's not going to happen. And we don't have any Doug Moes coaching in this area anyways that don't care about defense.
Well,
I mean, D'Antoni doesn't believe in defense, and he didn't even sniff 180-something points.
Yeah. Exactly. Mike D'Antoni doesn't care about defense.
Yeah, but that's a great point. But Doug Moe is just Doug Moe, period. I mean, Mike D'Antoni never cared about it. He attempted to try when he brought in coaches that knew it, but attempting is one thing. There is no way that this record will be, and if it happens 25 years from now, I can tell you one thing will happen. Okay, guys, you ready? I will be in Wisconsin Memorial Gardens dead, okay, in Milwaukee. So the reality is I don't think it will happen. Yeah, that's where my resting place will be, in Milwaukee. I don't expect Giannis Antetokounmpo to come and visit me out there. Probably don't know where it's at anyways. But the reality is essentially this record is going to get broken. I don't care about the All-Star game. How many All-Star games do people care about? Maybe baseball. NFL's getting rid of theirs, right?
Yeah.
Competition. And, the NHL, everything's all centered now. No way. Say what you want. I hope we get reactions. There's no way this record in the regular season is getting broken. Period.
Right, absolutely. And so with that being said, we're gonna move on to our next topic. And I thought about this and I was curious to hear everyone's thoughts. So we all know that Charlie Ward, and we're gonna cheat a little bit because we're gonna reference a little bit of football, but stay with us, people, okay? So Charlie Ward, he won the Heisman Memorial Trophy in 1993. Now he also played point guard while he was in college, but everyone knew him at the time period, of course, as a football player. Now, upon graduation, he said he was undecided about basketball or football, but he made it clear that if he did not get drafted in the first round, that he was going to go to the NBA. He felt he deserved that. Now, even his own friends and family were saying, you know what, because of your small stature, because they're still all about looks, you're probably a third or fourth rounder. He didn't get drafted in the first round. He went to the NBA, and he never played a down of NFL football. But considering that as I bring it up here, considering that his career averages in the pros, he played from 94 to 04 with the Knicks. He played 1 year with the Spurs, and then he was released and played with the Rockets. So he averaged 6.3 points per game. He averaged 2.6 rebounds per game and 4.0 assists. So he had a below pedestrian to pedestrian career. So my question to everyone, and I'm going to start off with Will. Did Charlie Ward make a mistake by going to the NBA instead of the NFL?
Man, it makes you think because we don't know because, of course, he went to the NBA. But, yeah, he was a little undersized. He was like 6'2". I don't know because was he a help to those Knicks teams? Not really, no. Would have he probably helped them win a championship? Probably not, no. Even though they didn't, he wouldn't have even probably contributed much. But I personally think that it would have been cooler if he went to the NFL. Personally, that's my opinion. I think who knows what he could have done. He could have been one of the first scrambling quarterbacks along with Warren Moon and those other guys at Randall Cunningham at that time, and could have revolutionized like the scrambling game with those two other guys, and made a difference in the NFL, whether what team it would be. And who knows, he could have had to switch positions when he went to the NFL. Maybe he went to wide receiver. Maybe, who knows? There's a lot of what-if scenarios with Charlie Ward. But, yeah, I think he could have. Do I think he would have been a Hall of Famer in the NFL? Who knows? He would have probably been like a backup quarterback for a good team. But, yeah, I think he could have had a pedestrian NFL career.
Yeah, I'll say this much, and I'll keep it short. Did he make a mistake? Hell yes, he did. Now, I know he was a two-sport athlete in college, okay? But he won the Heisman Trophy for football. He did not win the Naismith for basketball. If he would have won the Naismith for basketball, that's a different story. Not only that, but go ahead, Will. Go ahead.
I'll say something real fast. What's the Heisman for? Oh, I don't know. Football. Stick with football. You are the best.
Thank you.
The Heisman Trophy is for the best player in the nation. Oh, it's not a participation trophy. It's the award everyone wants to win. Sure, everyone wants to win a national championship. Everyone does. But what's the award they mainly want before the national championship? The Heisman Trophy.
Yes,
the Heisman
absolutely.
Trophy.
And then not only that, now look, if he went to the pros and he, averaged 25 a game and helped win a couple of rings, if he would have been like a Steve Nash, okay, I get it. But everyone knew you for football. I always thought this dude was the predecessor to Michael Vick. Watch him play and tell me I'm lying. I always thought he was a predecessor to Michael Vick. This man was electrifying. electrifying. And even if they position switch him to wide receiver, okay, so what? You know, you're more known as a football player, bro. And
Yes,
but you
he
know what?
was.
In my opinion, this is an example of your ego getting the best of you. And look what happened. It backfired. I think he had a career that backfired. The decision that backfired on him. And I'm not going to sit here and say the guy was trash. I just think he made a huge mistake not going to the NFL. But
I agree.
let's swing it down to Jacob. What do you think, man?
Two-part answer. Financially, absolute mistake. Because during the time that he got into the NBA, they had a Sports Illustrated deal talking about how the NHL was booming and NBA was starting to bust.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't and you have to remember, this is during a time they were starting the free agency and they're starting all that. And the money was not there. The NBFL was always there. So the money would have been there. Now,
Mm-hmm.
here's the thing with this, as far as his health, probably better off doing it into basketball. His health, because he would have been banged around. But this is all this. If he would have gone in this era, he'd be amazing as far as a quarterback. But he would have been absolutely switched to wide receiver or running back. He wouldn't have wanted that. He knows that was so. I mean, you got to remember the stories that how they kept trying to make Warren Moon a wide receiver, which he was slow as molasses.
Mm-hmm.
To this day, they keep trying to make black quarterbacks into wide receivers. To this day, they were definitely doing that in '94. This is, I don't want to switch to wide receiver, and he wanted to go to the pros because you got to remember he played quarterback of basketball, the point guard.
Yeah.
The leader of everything, and the minute he becomes that wide receiver, or not the leader, that was his going. And it's like, at the same time, there's no way he'd be playing quarterback in the NFL in 1994. No way, no how, no way. There were so few black quarterbacks at that time, and he was smaller, and it was all that. They would have thrown him, or they would have thrown him either the right. They would have thrown him to a slot receiver or running back, or even crazier quarterback.
Well, they did have Cordell at the time, but Cordell, he played slash, but he did play quarterback.
Exactly.
You know, so and you know what? The thing also, I'll say this much, is if he would have even went and averaged maybe like 9, 10, 11 assists, I could see that, you know. Those are point guard numbers, okay? You know, but he averaged like 4 dimes. Like, come on, man. You know, but I'm swinging on to Scott, man. What do you think about this whole thing?
Oh, man, I'm glad you had me last for this one. This is, I guess, when my age comes into play with this whole thing. Number one, I like how Warren Moon's name has been brought up here. If he really, really wanted to play football and quarterback, what he should have done at the beginning, if he was dedicated to football, is he should have played in the Canadian Football League. Didn't work out too badly for Warren Moon, did it? Okay. Didn't work out too bad for a lot of players that went out there, started in Canada, proved you can do it on the field, and then come south of the border. And that's number one. Number two, this is really where my age comes into play. Back, I believe, in the 70s, a guy by the name of Dennis Franklin was a University of Michigan quarterback. And if you look at Dennis Franklin's numbers, I don't have them. I'm just going by memory. But the Wolverines had a nice, successful tenure under Dennis Franklin. They didn't have many bowl games. I think they got involved with a battle with Ohio State, and they missed the bowl game. He was taken by the Detroit Lions later in the draft, and they tried to make him a wide receiver. Didn't work out. Of course, back then the draft was 12 to 18 rounds anyways. It didn't really matter. So you have guys like them who, didn't want to change position. I mean, Dennis Franklin did because he had no choice, whereas Charlie Ward did. Now, on the surface, okay, I know it'd be easy to throw this guy under the bus that the Heisman Trophy winner should have played in the NFL. But let me bring a couple of outside examples, okay, about dual sport players. Let's go to Kirk Gibson. How would his career have turned out in the National Football League compared to it was in baseball? You're talking about a longer career move that was subsequently, if he was good, that could have worked out better. So I know, let's trash the Heisman Trophy, should have gone in the NBA. When you look at a percentage standpoint, and let me emphasize my word, percentage standpoint, you want to think the NBA will give you a longer career span, and that's why he chose to make that decision. Now, we can sit here and second guess it on hindsight all we want, and there's justification on both ends to do it. And I'm not saying one way or the other. This is an excellent topic, is really what it comes down to. Because one of the things I like to do in a lot of my shows is come up with topics that you can go one way or the other and see both sides. I've always been taught in journalism, you have to be objective and you have to look at all the facts, both sides. So opinions are great, facts, and then
novel concept.
Right, exactly. No, so my point is, I would have liked to have seen Charlie Ward in the NFL. He was playing the percentages, being a point guard, like you said. A point guard, to me, as a quarterback, is like being one here because they involve a lot of mental thinking. You have to get other people involved. But but think about it, Denzel. Let me ask you guys a question. How do you think Kirk Gibson would have fared in football compared to what happened in Major League Baseball?
Well, he was a better baseball player, wasn't he?
Well, he was a good wide receiver out of Michigan State as well. He could have gone either way.
It could have went either way. But he was more known as his example is a little bit more, I guess, even. Well,
no, I disagree with you there. He was known as a heck of a football player at Michigan State, but and then Sparky Anderson, when he landed with the Tigers, actually tabbed him as the next Mickey Mantle. Boy, that's a lot of pressure to put on a young player.
It is.
It really is. So the point is he was able to go both ways. And it's safe to say he had a couple of towering shots and never get to the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame. But, again, when you're a two-sport player, that isn't an easy decision to make. Hey, listen, Bo Jackson was determined never to play for the Buccaneers and use baseball. How did that turn out in baseball, right? Turned out really well. So I guess, I'm not going to sit here and beat up Charlie Ward too bad. Would I have liked to have seen him play in the NFL? Yeah. Did Charlie Ward realize that you had Tom Brady's later on that got drafted way later, and how many quarterbacks that either became undrafted guys or drafted later turn out? Yeah, but it's a different scouting setup altogether in terms of how you judge quarterbacks. And obviously African-American quarterbacks there weren't as many then as there are now. Because changed. And I'm not saying anything one way. There are a lot more opportunities for African-American quarterbacks now compared to then. So, yeah, I could see both sides, and I'm not going to beat up Charlie Ward that bad because I understand how other multiple sports things. And again, I go back to the Dennis Franklin example. If you win at Michigan, don't you think you should easily have an opportunity to be a starter somewhere? I'm talking about Michigan. We're not talking about some of the other schools out. We're talking about Michigan. Didn't work out that way.
True. Yeah. Well, another example, and maybe it's a bad one, but I'll bring it up anyway. But here's another quarterback drafted in 1999 and in the end of the 1990s, Donovan McNabb. He played point guard at Syracuse. He realized what he was good at. He went to the NFL. He ended up playing a long time, didn't he?
Yeah, Donovan McNabb's another good example, though. But here's the thing: the guy got booed in Philly right away. Then again, everybody gets booed there.
Everybody gets booed in Philly.
Philly's a different animal.
But Donovan McNabb, though, to me,
practices his booze every day.
Well, that's true. Yeah, but Donovan McNabb was a really good example, Denzel. It really is. I mean, again, but point guard, the thing that we have to make sure we don't lose sight of when we talk about point guard, okay, everybody has a point guard mentality. Whether you know it or not, Denzel, you got a point guard mentality. Aren't you the moderator of the show? It's up to you to make sure you're the best moderator you can. You ever do yourself as a point guard when you're doing these shows? If you're not, maybe I'll make you a situation that you are a point guard. You're distributing these comments to Will, myself, Jacob, and whatever other shows you participate on. So Donovan McNabb is a good example of that. So the reality is we can beat up on Charlie all day long. One guy plays one sport better than the other, but you also have to look at long-term security as well in career life when you make these decisions. If you think
health.
Well, yeah, too. I mean, that's true. I mean, how many head injuries are you going to get in the NBA versus you're going to get in the NFL?
Hey, no. Ask Adrian Dantley in 1987 about that.
No, I know. Don't remind me of that. I know he beat head with Vinny Johnson.
But no, here's the deal, though. Here's the thing about it. I'll bring up another example. Tim Tebow. He actually hit like 575 in baseball when he was in high school after they decided to play football. And considering he played baseball for like 3 years, got to Double-A, and before he hurt his hand, he hit like 273 before he hurt his hand. And that kept him being out of baseball 12 years.
Right. And
it's like, this is kind of saying, we already know what was his baseball. I mean, football, he was all heart, not a lot of skill, but all heart, and all fourth quarter and all guts. Here's the thing, though. If he could hit 273 being out of baseball 12 years before he got hurt, it's no question. I think he would have been a better baseball player.
Yeah, but if you're going to sit here and start bringing up dual sports athlete, how can we end the show here talking about Michael Jordan, right? I mean, Michael Jordan, if it weren't for Jerry Reinsdorf, wouldn't have gotten an opportunity to play in the White Sox organization because he won them championships in Chicago. Well, Michael Jordan, a great athlete, right? All of a sudden, he knew where his strength was. It was on the hard court instead of
on the hard court. Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, we should do a show one of these days, whether I'll do it or you guys, about the best two-sport athletes out there. And I think you can get a lot of things out there and talk about best two-sport. I don't know, it's on the basketball show, but I'm sure we'll find something. If not, I'll have it on mine, since Sideline and South Florida Tribune are partners. We're going to get that topic out there at some point or another.
Oh, yeah. On one of these shows, most definitely. Well, we're in the final 5 minutes. We'll take this 5 minutes to wrap up the show and go around and see where everyone can find everyone. I'd like to thank everyone who liked and reacted and who watched Basketbros tonight. Will, where can everyone find you at?
Find me on Monday nights. In the next few months, it will be the NBA Carousel. Tuesday nights, I'm on 108 Stitches Baseball with Scott and Jordan and whoever. Thursday, the Sip Off hosted by Megan Price and Jahan Phillips. And then Sunday nights here with you guys, plus whenever Dom likes to show up.
And Scott, on you, man.
All right, thanks, Denzel. Saying tonight's version of Wesley Washington and Jacob. That's funny. Anyways, you can go to our website, www.southfloridatribune.com. If you want to, we have a lot of good content there. More importantly, though, obviously you've seen on my thing. If you go to Twitter, look up for South Florida Tribune under Tribune South. But most of all, please subscribe to the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel. We have a lot of great shows that are in the works. We've had a lot of good ones, and the partnership with Sideline Sports has been nothing short of outstanding. The people here, I have 3 of them in front of me. Let's not forget JB Ellis. Let's not forget John Shearer. Let's not forget Jake Malik, Jennifer Matthews-Lewis, Dom DeRubeis, obviously, and Jordan Long. To me, you guys are outstanding. So please subscribe to the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel. These guys are going to be on the Sports Exchange. Of course, Jacob, what can I say? I like clashing with you on Wednesday night. And every
Not a lot of clashing. We agree a lot.
Yeah, yeah, you and I actually fall into the GMTA, Great Minds Think Alike part, which is okay. Nothing wrong with that, because it means just, you and I look at things in a way where you look at both sides and then formulate an opinion. So
yeah.
It's a really fun time, people. Of course, it's part of a loaded Wednesday night slate. You boogie on over to the South Florida Tribune, check out the Sports Exchange, and then right on back to Sideline Sports. He's got some great material out there, y'all. Scott Morgonroth, the architect of the Sports Exchange. And on to you, Jacob. Where can everyone find you?
Well, besides my car.
Right.
Besides my car. Sunday nights and Basketbros. Monday nights during the season is the NBA Carousel with Megan Price. Tuesday nights during the season, Confidential, which will definitely not be on 11 o'clock anymore, thankfully. Which I think we have one more show after the World Series. I think we were planning that. Mm-hmm. Wednesday nights, doubleheader, the Pundits Pundit and the Pundits Pundit and the Sports Exchange. And then Thursday nights on hiatus now because of family emergency, but the Yin and Yang with TJ Sanson, and we're also working on a movie together. So a lot of things going on.
Yep, absolutely. Like I said, things outside of Sideline Sports and within Sideline Sports, definitely check us out. Once again, we are on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. So whichever avenue you checked us out tonight, just know that there's 2 more for you to catch us on. So
one thing I want to add, JB Ellis and I are working on getting Sports Exchange actually on Sideline Sports as well, the YouTube channel. So we're in the process of working. So that way they'll be able to see it there as well as ours. I just want to slip that in there because there's some individuals here. So thank you.
Awesome. Sounds good. So as you can see, they're going to transcend on to Sideline Sports. We got a lot of material out there. Very young company. We've been around for just about a year or so, but we already have awesome shows, quite the resume. We also cover live events. We've covered the Super Bowl, the NFL Hall of Fame, the WNBA Draft, the NFL Scouting Combine, you name it, we're there. So Sideline Sports is where it's at. So for DJ Willie B, Scott Morgonroth, and Jacob Christner, I'm Denzel Snipes. We will see you in 7 days. Later, y'all.
Later.